Hello again, my name is Rodney Reynolds, and this is yet another video review. Today I will be looking at the AMD Athlon XP 1900 Plus CPU. This is the product itself, the 1900 CPU. The only real difference between this CPU and the Athlon 4 CPUs is the color of the wafer here. The other one was kind of a grayish color, and of course, as most overclockers know, the L1 bridge at the top left hand corner here by my top finger is done in such a way that it's not made to be easily overclocked. It can be, and in an upcoming video review I will be showing you how to overclock this particular series, the Athlon XP series from AMD. The other difference, of course, with this is the new megahertz scheme. This is the 1900, and in actuality this is a 1.6 gigahertz CPU. The multiplier is at 12 and the front side bus is at 133. That of course equals 1.6 gigahertz. Something else to note about this CPU is that it doesn't work in every Athlon AMD based motherboard. You do need a motherboard that will support this particular series, the Athlon XP series of CPUs. Now, most do support this with a BIOS update if your motherboard is older, and even the ones that are current, I would recommend getting the latest BIOS for your particular product. Of course, installing this is like installing any CPU. You need to place it correctly in the motherboard. Once it is in there correctly, you would need to snap it in, and then or before make sure that you apply some thermal paste. I'm using Arctic Silver 2. Let me now install the heatsink on top of this CPU. So now that we have installed our cooler, you can go ahead and plug everything into the motherboard and enjoy your CPU. Let me now show you some of the settings that I used in the BIOS and some results that I got from this CPU. Here is a closer look at the motherboard setup. I'm using the 8-bit KG7 RAID motherboard. Of course, this motherboard does recognize the Athlon XP 1900 Plus. The memory here is at 133. It's DDR memory, so therefore in actuality is at 266. The default voltage for this CPU is 1.75 volts. Using a program called SciSoft Sandra, and in this program I will be doing 3 tests: a CPU benchmark test, a CPU multimedia test, and a memory benchmark as well. Let's go ahead now and do the CPU benchmark test. As you can see here, this CPU outperforms everything else right now currently. The score on this is 4363 MIPS. If you compare that to an Athlon 4 1.33 gigahertz, the score on that particular CPU is 3750. If you compare that to an Intel Pentium 4 1.6 gigahertz CPU, that CPU gets 3065. So you can see there that this certainly is a fast CPU, and it does show it in the benchmarks. Let's go on to the CPU multimedia benchmark here. You will see as well a very high score, outperforming everything else currently on the market in the consumer end. And if we go to the memory benchmark, the memory results that I got on this using Crucial 2100 memory at 133 megahertz in the BIOS using an 8-bit KG7 motherboard, the score is 764. If you compare that to an Intel based system, you can see here that the memory results on the Intel are much faster than the AMD system. However, in most cases, situations and in reality, this CPU would even outperform a Pentium 4 2 GHz CPU. AMD has once again put out a CPU for performance equals value and certainly done a great job with this particular CPU. If you're going high-end, of course, this is the fastest XP right now from AMD and probably the fastest CPU on the planet currently. This CPU in most case situations will outperform the Pentium 4 from Intel, the 2 GHz version, at a savings of around $300 to $400. So again, bang for the buck. AMD, you just cannot compete with their CPUs when it comes for value versus performance. There is really no negative sides to this particular CPU except that it is the highest end of CPU from AMD, and in saying that, of course, it's going to cost a lot. This is around $450 to $500 Canadian. That is the only negative that I can find with this CPU. I give this CPU a 9.5 out of 10. Again, my name is Rodney Reynolds, and this has been another video review. Be sure to check back in a few days. I will have a new video review for you then. Also, be sure to check out my website at www.3dgameman.com, and while you're there, check out the forums. Until the next time, take care.